up in value by $4 billion. So the money that he made in the last 2 years, it's been the most money that he's ever made, and it just happened that he made it when he was president.
And not just him, and not just him.
Yeah,
members of his family and his associates as well.
That is going to be my next point. Not just his associates, but I was doing some research while you were talking, and it was an article by PBS yesterday that was circulated by a lot of news media that says 57 people in the administration now are worth at least $100 million each. So, I mean, a lot of these people are ambassadors, and a lot of them hold, cabinet positions and all that. This is more than 3 times more than any other, cabinet before any other president. I think Scott talked earlier about how the people that donated to the ballroom, which is now, I guess, it's a military installation. $400 million is the cost of the ballroom, but the government contract that were issued to these folks are valued at $50 billion. And no one, is doing anything about it. The person, there's a person that was at the SEC. She was the head of the enforcement division. She's a judge. Margaret Ryan, that's her name. She quit her job because with all these stuff, she was trying to push like the SEC to do what they need to do, when she was told over and over and over that that to basically not do her job when she sees that they need to investigate stuff like insider trading, stuff like that, to certain people. If I commit insider trading, none of these leniencies in that would be at the upper echelon would apply to me. I'll go to jail, as any of you, I guess, in this room. But we're seeing even stuff like we saw how the post that the president posted in his social media, how a little bit after the post is posted, that suddenly a bunch of trade happened in the stock market, whether it's oil, whether it's particular stocks, whether it's buying or selling. And a lot of people benefit from that and wonder, like, who are these people? How would they have known that the president was going to mention this thing that's going to have this impact on the market, that they actually committed the trade 5 minutes before the post was broadcasted publicly? So instead of kind of going back and maybe not and saying, hey, this smells like insider trading, he's now selling early access to his post. So you too, Gary, if you have a membership, I guess, through social, can get the early, warning or.
Yeah, I've got, he's $100,000 a month, and I'm happy to spend on that. Monson, let me ask you another question that just comes to mind. Earlier, I asked somebody whether they were concerned about a trickle-down effect. He's studying an example that might affect people who are not involved in government in their daily lives, the ethics in business and in their personal relationships. I want to expand that to ask you about whether you have concerns about how he is setting a tone for people in current government who might not act in an ethical manner. And the reason I ask this question is because the Secretary of Defense, or as some people refer to him as the Secretary of War, just went to Iowa, to the state fair, to campaign for a Republican congressman. I think his name is Zach Nunn. Let me look up the guy's name. because I want to make sure I get this accurately. Yes, Zach Nunn. And I checked, and there may be some loopholes to this, but I think it's generally considered a violation of both federal ethics and Department of Defense policies for a sitting Secretary of Defense to actively campaign for partisan political candidates. Other cabinet secretaries are not bound by these restrictive rules. Whether it's a violation or not, is he setting a tone that affects all of government, not just him and his associates and his family members?
Yeah, basically, if it's the protected circle that is allowed, I guess if you can get away with it, we're seeing a lot of people. It's like, yeah, and they'll tell you if it's for the benefit of the country. So it did create a whole big kind of untouchables, I'll call them, that nothing will come out of this because there is. We're basically the clique that can get away with stuff, and you'll hear people on Fox News and all that kind of minimize the problems that can raise, whether it's ethical or whether it's legal or whatever. I mean, you'll have that because it's just created this idea that everything is, if you can get away with it, and then nothing will really happen to you legally, because there is this perception that the Justice Department now is basically, belongs to the president. And we didn't have that feeling before. Usually the Attorney General, a good Attorney General, to do all the time. So we do have that environment now. We do have, a cabinet that is basically people that got hired were hired because of, they pledged loyalty and all that. So yeah, if it created this whole thing that if you can get away with it, and if you can say we're doing it it's for the good of the country, and we're gonna bypass all these bureaucratic kind of things that would make the progress kind of happen later. It's unfortunately happening, and the unfortunate thing is there is a whole side of the other branches of the government that would turn a blind eye on this. I know some people are vocal about being against what's going on and speak about it, but then again, at the end, they have to wait whether whether it's worth it to lose their seat and all that if they appear to be too critical of the president and his circle.
Thank you, Monsef. We'll go to Ching, followed by Samuel.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello.
How's it?
Hello, Gary. Is it me? Hi, Gary.
Hi, Ching. Samuel, you're after her. Ching, followed by Samuel.
Oh, okay. Yes, it's me. Okay. Yes, teacher. Hi, Gary. I'm everybody. I'm in a very noisy place. Okay, so if you can't hear me, just let me know. Your question is so polite. Is this appropriate? Depending on who is answering the question. If you ask some, people or some of Trump's supporters, but they probably get properties, they get seniorities, forever. They get certain money until they die. So it's a very similar. But I think Trump is getting way lot more than many politicians. This category, including foreign politicians. I don't have data though. So Is it appropriate? No, it's not, to my standard. He's supposed to work for people. He's supposed to lead our country. He's supposed to be the smart guy. He's supposed to be the captain of our ship. He's supposed to be the teacher of the class. And all the things he's done to the country is just disgraceful. Now he puts his name on every building he can possibly want to put. He wants to put his goddamn name on Penn Station in New York City. This guy is shameless, and this guy definitely he does not feel bad about being rich out of his position and his connection and his power, and it's not appropriate. I'm done talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ching. And I don't know if you were continuing, but we lost you there if you were still continuing. Thank you, Ching. Samuel.
Hello, how's it going? I think that much of what Trump has done, I think many people would find it distasteful or like she said, not appropriate. I think that we're probably entering into a new, how to describe it? This is a new era, right? Where I don't think people's idea of what dollars are tied to or how things are worth is really anchored as much anymore. And typically with presidents, you usually get paid after you're out of office, right? Obama became a president in Hawaii afterwards, because of his connections to donors. Same thing for the Clintons, and I'm sure Biden would have gone there had he not been investigated for the things that happened there. But typically, you get taken care of afterwards, right? Trump, on the other hand, he already came in wealthy. He wasn't politically involved in U.S. government for many years, or at least the lifers that Clinton and Obama, the others were, and came afterwards, right? And so I think typically if you go, I think the last wealthy president, you'd have to go back and look at maybe Bush or something, or I'm not sure who would be before then, but Bush helped out all of his oil buddies who got him elected, and that's typically what you do, and then you get taken care of on the back end. For Trump, it's a little bit different because he already had assets when he came in, or he already had businesses, and there didn't need to be this quid pro quo that happened where you get taken care of afterwards. That's much what we're seeing now. So I think some of it's distasteful. Others is it's very politically toxic to some of the legislation that I think the Republicans would like to get passed. But because of Trump's involvement, it makes it much harder to actually get certain laws passed. So I don't know. I mean, there must be some political calculation that goes into it that says this must be okay.
What laws are you thinking we'd have a harder time passing while in the majority? Are you thinking maybe of the SAVE Act or?
No, because that's with elections. I was thinking more about so the crypto markets have been wanting this thing called for, I don't know, a couple of years. And because of Trump's crypto dealings, it becomes politically toxic to the Democrats, right? They don't want to touch it because of what Trump did. I think if Trump wasn't involved, it probably would not have such political toxicity, and it probably would have been passed already.
Gotcha, makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not like there's anything crazy within the law. It's just it just sets the SEC and CFTC about what actually should be done in terms of how they enforce the law, right? And I think a lot of people want the bill to pass through, but it's politically toxic at the moment. It may not even get passed in this session, and if that doesn't happen and they lose the midterms, then it might never get passed. So I think there's probably some other financial bills which get vacuumed up in that, which would have the same issues because of the types of businesses that the Trumps are involved in. But there's this thing Trump's already rich and his friends are rich, right? So Jared Kushner's brother just bought the Lakers, right? And he did it with, Bob Iger of Disney. Like, they have $12 billion to buy the Lakers with, right? I mean, this is the type of money that people in Trump circles move with. So I don't think it's like uncommon. Like, he was already a businessman before he came in. Like, going from a couple of $100 million to a few billion is not that crazy when you think about how asset prices have moved and the power of compounding. But again, like, it's probably quite distasteful today, but probably not illegal.
Samuel, more than doubling your wealth? I mean, that's a lot, right? I mean, that's a lot in a year. If I could do that, that'd be amazing.
I mean,
Scott, from what I hear, if you doubled your wealth, there would be no increase. Is that true?
That's very true, very true.
To the question of the SAVE Act, there are legitimate concerns that people raise, and it's not necessarily because of Trump toxicity, but that may be part of it. There are people, as we all know, have been arguing that the requirements to provide documents is a voter suppression move because certain people don't have access to documents. I had a flood in my house, and I've been looking for my birth certificate, and I can't find it right now. I'm sure it's here somewhere, and I will find it, but everything got shuffled around, and some things that were in certain locations no longer are, and I need my birth certificate for something, and I've been searching for days for my birth certificate. Now I could get another one, but that's not the point. The point is sometimes people have trouble, and there are other issues that some folks feel are necessary to ensure the integrity of elections, but there are people who are opposed to it, and I'm not making an argument one way or another. I'm just suggesting I don't know whether one can conclude that if it were not for Trump's toxicity, the SAVE Act would have passed by now.
And Gary, one other thing about the one thing Samuel said, that this idea of, well, guys get paid on the back end as speakers and because they're celebrities, right? Yeah, but they're also not influencing policy decisions. Also, on the Trump, the logic for Trump's candidacy is that he didn't need to make money, that he was so wealthy that first off, he said he was going to self-fund his campaign, which he never did, right? but people believe that, right? Oh, he's so wealthy, he's going to self-fund, and he never did that.
But didn't he get Mexico to pay for the border wall?
Very strongly, powerfully, very strongly, beautifully. They paid so beautifully, and China's going to pay all the tariffs. So that he didn't do that, and also that was the logic of the campaign, right? That he was so wealthy, he didn't need to act like this and look distasteful like this because he was beyond being bought. He just doesn't look that way.
Well, I'm wondering. Actually, I don't understand the psychology. There's some people that get to be uber rich. I don't know whether Trump is considered in that stratus, but they become uber rich and then they recognize, what am I going to do with all this money? So they develop foundations. The Gates Foundation, Zuckerberg is a foundation now, where they're giving away their money. The Ford family, they established the Ford Foundation. There's so many people who are now philanthropists because what more do they need? And I don't understand the psychology of needing more to the point where one is willing to potentially impugn their ethics to gain greater largesse that they don't really need.
And also, Gary, if you love the country, right, you could be sacrificial and say, you know what? I do have the right to do this, but I love the country so much, I'm going to go beyond reproach so that my political stuff doesn't get stolen, so I can show everybody I'm just like everybody else. And this is how much my love of country supersedes my love of wealth.
But you know that the majority of the wealth that you're talking about is either private or public shares. So somebody like Elon, you don't think he really has $1 trillion in bank account somewhere, right? his.
Yeah, but Samuel, wouldn't that have been a more virtuous thing for Trump to do? And didn't he tell us that he was that kind of guy?
Hold on 1 second. I think it's but like you're talking about these like wealthy people. Most of their wealth is just shares, right? It's just equity. So like they don't have money in a bank somewhere.
Elon is broke. I know Elon is broke. I know Elon must be broke.
But look what Elon
He's
did.
broke. I know.
Started a company, made it successful, and then used the value of his equity that he has in that company to start another company. And then he used the value of that to start another.
No, he's cash strapped. I know Elon has no money. I know that. I'll concede that.
It doesn't matter if he has money.
I'll stipulate that. Elon's broke.
Compounded his wealth. Okay, it doesn't matter, but he compounded his wealth by creating value. I think like Elon has probably created more millionaires and probably even billionaires than anybody else.
That wasn't the point of the question that I raised. I'm not saying that people haven't, there hasn't been jobs created by people who make money. I'm not saying that it's evil to make money. I haven't suggested that at all. My question has to do with the ethics, how you can put ethical considerations aside potentially to make more money that you really don't need. You talk about people who are very comfortable, and in this case, a president who's representing a populace that have folks, not everybody, but there's a good portion of his constituency that is worried about meals. They've cut down on meals. They're worried about their medical bills. They're worried about a lot of things that they're having
he cuts their food stamps and their Medicaid.
Yeah, but that's not Trump's job though. Do you know what Trump's job is? His like number one job at the end of the day. His job is to preserve the value of the United States dollar against everything else, which is to maintain the strength of the American empire, and because the dollar's value comes from the strength of both our military and both everything that we put in place. All the things you're talking about, like
but that's not the discussion.
That's Congress.
But it's a discussion. It's a discussion of ethics. Why would you put your ethics aside in order to use your position as president of the United States to make money for yourself and your family members and your associates? What I can't, I almost understand when, so if a guy is hungry here in New York City and he walks into a Dwayne Reed and they have these grab to go, we could grab a sandwich and pay this astronomical amount of money for a stupid sandwich, $10 for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but and grabs it and runs out the store. That's, aside from the legalities of it, it's an unethical thing to do, but he's hungry.
Thomas Aquinas would say that's an exception.
So I understand the motivation.
Okay?
My question is, why would somebody who is not hungry grab that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, to use that as an example? Why? I don't get the, I'm just saying, I'm not arguing whether he's doing a good job as president or not in the aggregate. I'm just questioning, why would somebody expose themselves to the critique of unethical behavior when one doesn't need to do so? I don't understand the psychology of it.
Right, because it's deeper than what you need to understand. He's taking care of business, so you don't fuck.
Hey Kaz, we go one at a time, and Gary calls on you. I know you're new, so you'll have to wait a minute.
Go ahead,
Thanks,
Samuel.
man.
It's Samuel's turn. Go ahead, Samuel.
Yeah, look, I think that he came into this. He probably has everything in a blind trust, or his like son Jared runs a bunch of stuff, right? Like I don't think like Trump himself is managing his business on a day-to-day, right? Do you think he's really like checking in to see how his DJT is doing?
Okay, here's the question as we posed it in the beginning with documentation. Okay, the question is he making decisions as the head of government that directly benefit those people who are in his circle and his businesses that are in the trust of others that he is not running himself.
Like I do
And
think when asked about this, he said George Washington had two desks. He ran his business privately, and then he had his presidential desk. So when asked about this, Trump didn't say I'm not running. He said he did that as a justification for how this is illicit.
Right. Well, my only question right now, the present question that I just posed is, my question is, what would motivate somebody to do this when that person doesn't need to do it? What would motivate them to do it? I'm not arguing whether he's a good president or not. I'm not arguing whether he's bolstered the dollar and made our military stronger than ever, which arguably he has not. But some people might think so. That's not the question I'm posing. My question is narrowly focused on the ethics and the psychology of why somebody who doesn't need to steal that peanut butter and jelly sandwich would do so. Why?
Stealing is illegal, right?
Well, so is what he does illegal, except he's indemnified because he's the president, because the rules don't apply to him.
That was illegal. What did he do?
If his cabinet secretaries did this, they would be prosecuted.
I'm asking about his cabinet secretaries. I'm asking, like, what did he specifically do that was illegal? That, because
Well, it's not illegal. It's not illegal. It's not illegal. It's not illegal. I never said that he's acting in an illegal manner. I said in the very beginning.
Stealing, which is illegal.
Because I'm trying to make an analogy here. I'm saying that the person who takes that peanut butter and jelly. I said that in addition to that being illegal, it's unethical to take the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm talking about motivation. Okay? I'm sorry I'm using this as the analogy. It's probably a crappy analogy. I will acknowledge that. I'm just saying that people do things sometimes because they have to, or they feel that they have to. They're desperate. I might act in an unethical manner in order to pull something over on Scott if we have a deal, a gentleman's agreement, and then I renege on that to my benefit, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my house because I'm on the verge of foreclosure. What I did may not be illegal, but it's unethical. But I did it because I understand why I did it. I'm not saying it's less unethical, but I did it because I want to save my domicile. I don't want to lose my house. I have a motivation to do so, and so I act in an unethical manner. I'm not suggesting that it's correct to act in an unethical manner. I'm saying that sometimes people feel motivated to act in an unethical manner because of the circumstances that they find themselves in. Okay, so forget the peanut butter and jelly analogy. Forget the peanut butter and jelly. Hold on, I'm answering your question. So forget the peanut butter and jelly analogy. I'm not making an argument. I'm asking a question. If I am not in danger of losing my house, I am comfortable and living within my middle American income means, why would I act in an unethical manner towards Scott, my friend? I don't understand the psychology. What would motivate me to do so? The president is comfortable in his means. Right now, well, he's got overhead. I won't go there. But he does have a White House. He's not worrying about losing his current government-provided domicile. He does have overhead. I recognize that. But as far as we all know, he's not in danger of losing, being homeless tomorrow. He's not in danger, once he leaves office, of not being able to buy his Big Macs and Diet Pepsis. He's fine financially. So why is it so important for him to act in an unethical manner, which gives the impression true or not, that he is making decisions on behalf of himself and his orbit, not on behalf of the nation, what would motivate him to do that?
Okay, so just to set things straight, he's not doing anything illegal. You say,
Right.
right?
He's
doing something-
indemnified as president because of a Supreme Court rule. He's not doing anything illegal. I said that in the very beginning, and I probably said it 5 or 6 times.
Okay, I'm just making sure of things. So he's not doing anything illegal, but he's doing something which you believe is unethical, right?
He is acting in a manner that 60% of the nation feels is unethical.
Well,
63%.
It's unethical, right?
Oh, for God's sake, Samuel, I'm going to move on.
No, I'm just.
You're looking. No. You're looking to start an argument. Let me explain. This may be your first time on the stage. When I ask a question, it's not because I'm trying to start an argument, and you're trying to get things into the weeds because I use the peanut butter and jelly analogy, and that's illegal. What the president's doing is not illegal. I think everybody here understood the question. I probably shouldn't have made the analogy because it got us off on a track that you just couldn't get off of. And so I apologize to everybody for that, because as everybody knows, this is not what I want with this room. I'm trying to have an honest discussion. I ask an honest question. It's not about what Gary believes is ethical or unethical. We're discussing the fact. The basis of today's discussion is the Reuters Ipsos poll, which shows that more than 60%, including half of Republicans, believe the president is acting in an unethical manner. It's not about Gary. And maybe because you're new to the room, you don't understand that's how this room operates. But you frustrate me, and I'm moving on. Daryl, followed by L.
Hey, yeah. So a couple of things, and then to the point, right? So the argument that, wealthy people aren't sitting on a bunch of cash and it's mostly stocks and, investments. It's false logic, right? Because the phrase that
cash in anytime they want.
Yeah,
it's money in their pocket. They may not be in their pocket right now, but they can cash in today and live the rest of their lives fine, right?
Or borrow against it, right? The phrase
or they can borrow against it, but
yeah,
they're not.
The phrase, yeah.
Right, but they're not cash strapped.
Well, ultimately it doesn't matter, because the phrase that when I was on Wall Street, the phrase was build, borrow, die, right? You build something, you spend the rest of your life borrowing against it, and then you die and you create, like tax havens for your kids. The point is, whether you're spending cash to buy a plane or someone gives you a loan to buy a plane, you still get the plane. So I don't understand the argument that because, it's not cash. Yeah, but they're still getting cash to go buy things.
The point is, are they having trouble meeting their
buying
bills?
Dinner? Not at all.
Right? Are they having trouble buying dinner?
Not at all. Yeah.
Well, a lot of Americans are.
Yeah.
I raised one issue and the previous caller responds with another that has nothing to do with the question that was raised. And you make an excellent point, Daryl, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, so he left the room, but he's in a lot of rooms, and what he tends to do mostly is carry Trump's water, and that's just the phrase for it, right?
Well, he can. It's fine. He can carry Trump's water. There's no problem. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I just asked him to answer a question, and he
can't, because he has an agenda. He also, right. I think he has a pod. So the thing is, Gary, to set your ethics aside, you'd first have ethics, right? So it's kind of, look at who we're talking about. Between himself and his organizations, I think the New York Times did a piece like a year ago. It's unprecedented how many lawsuits he's been in. I think it's over 4,000 lawsuits where he's either not paid workers or he's hired, like the guy who wants to kick all the aliens out has been hiring undocumented workers for his, for construction, to work housekeeping at some of his places. None undocumented workers were never an issue for him previously, right? And I just go back to have to set your ethics aside. You'd first have to have some type of ethical core. This, we're living with what we asked for, right? Which is why I blame the party for him, right? This is, like I said before, anyone who's been here in New York before The Apprentice, who's known him before The Apprentice.
4,000, Daryl.
Yes.
More than 4,000. I just looked it up.
Lawsuits?
I asked this question of Gemini. How many lawsuits has Trump been involved in outside his responsibilities as president? Because, you can't count those. Donald Trump has been involved in more than 4,000 legal cases completely outside of his official responsibilities as president of the United States. This is AI.
It's stunning. It's stunning. It's absolutely
an extensive
insane.
ongoing analysis by USA Today and legal bases tracks his decades-long history in state and federal courts, finding at least 4,095 distinct lawsuits spanning his pre-presidency career, private business operations, personal conduct, and post-presidency life.
Think about that. That's like you're in court every day for 2 years.
Right. The massive litigation footprint is uniquely sprawling for a modern political figure and can be broken down into three major areas, which I'm not going to get into.
It's insane.
4,095.
It's insane. A buddy of mine, I don't know if you remember this restaurant, but a buddy of mine said that he would dine and dash. He would literally come into the restaurant. This was an upscale restaurant over on Fifth Avenue. He'd come in, do a meeting, and then he would just walk out. He would literally, he and whoever he was with, they would literally just walk out. And so this idea that he's the leader of the free world. It's insane. And again, to the previous caller who I believe left, it's about the American dollar. The American dollar before the petrodollar was a middling currency. Before 1974, the American dollar was a very average currency. And once the petrodollar ends, likely within the next 16 to 18 months, we're going to be a middling currency again. And this idea that Trump is here to protect American dominance, well, he's not protecting it very well because we've abdicated our leadership on the world stage. But I'll wrap with, to abandon your ethics, you'd first have to have ethics to abandon.
So my question is answered, not by anybody on the stage, Daryl, but once again, I turn to AI. So take it for what it's worth. Gemini again. Psychologists, behavioral economists, geez, Gary, do you know the English language? And criminologists have studied this phenomenon extensively. The question I asked specifically was, why would a person of means act in an unethical manner to raise even more money? Continuing, they have found that once individuals reach a certain level of wealth, their motivation to acquire more money is rarely about survival or material comfort. Instead, the drive shifts toward psychological and social factors, which of course, AI being what AI is, they break down in an extensive manner, which I will not bore you with today. But it's a psychological phenomenon, Daryl.
Well, think about the last thing I'll say. Remember, there was reporting 3 weeks ago that Iran had hired psychologists to figure out how to deal with him and how to talk to him, because I think it was the Times. They said Iran had hired top-level psychologists to figure out how to interact with Donald Trump, because we can all see, hey, this isn't normal. So how do you deal with this? That's it. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah. So the intelligence reports that were actually initially reported by drop site media and then by the New York Times and by NDTV. Iran explicitly hired 2 senior behavioral psychologists to serve as an advisory circle during the indirect peace negotiations with the president. The decision to enlist psychological professionals marked a highly unusual shift in traditional diplomatic strategy. Rather than relying solely on nuclear scientists, military experts, or career diplomats, Tehran brought in mental health experts specifically to decode Trump's communications and predict his reactions. Good contribution, Daryl. L followed by L. L followed by L. That's funny. The letter L followed by Ellen.
Thank you, Gary. I was saving up my opener here for something that Scott had said about George Washington having 2 desks where he was so ethical. He had a desk for government action and a separate desk for his private affairs. I just want to remind everyone that the mayor of New York City, Mamdani, has his desk backwards with all the drawers facing the wrong direction. And
what? What does that mean? What is that? What? Huh? What does that mean?
He gave an address where his desk was backwards.
What was that like? He's trying to make a statement? What is? I don't get that. What does that mean?
I think it was for 4th of July, the 250-year celebration, 4th of July. He gave his speech about American values or something, and his desk was backwards.
Not the topic of today's discussion, but very interesting nonetheless. Okay, back to the top.
But yeah, so, and then to avoid being accused of being argumentative, I was hoping to maybe have more of a volley back and forth about economics, the ethics of capitalism. Is that something you'd be interested in engaging in?
I'm interested in engaging in discussing the president and whether confidence in him leading the country has eroded because of the perceived ethical violations that he has committed based on the polling that was conducted by Reuters.
Okay. How about, can I ask you about Al Gore?
No, we're not talking about Al Gore. We're talking about Donald Trump, and we're not talking about Mamdani nor George Washington for that.
Well, I wanted to reference his work in environmentalism, and I wanted to genuinely know if you think he profited from his environmental policy.
I don't know, and I don't particularly care for purposes of today's discussion. L followed by Dr.
Okay, hi everybody. Well, I'm glad to hear the conversation because I think the question of ethics is really important. And I really like that we're making a distinction between what's legal and what's ethical. My response is, number one, I'm pleased to see the polling because what that tells me is that Americans are taking his actions personally and are holding him to a standard, an ethical standard. Ethics is about values. Values is about how does this affect people's lives. And so, the people are speaking with their polling, with their votes, and saying, no, this is not good for me. Why does somebody do this? I think it's a sickness. I think that greed, the avariciousness that we're seeing, it's kind of an addiction. I need more. So, in terms of, the downstream effects are tragic because we are seeing people who are hungry. We are seeing people who don't have a roof over their head while watching this guy just profit and profit and profit. When I think about leaders, I think about my children and I think about, when I say we live in this country and look up, here's the person who is in charge of our country.
All y'all is some broke bitches. All right, thank you for that, Fully Boyd. I don't think we'll be inviting Fully Boyd to the stage ever again. Ellen, continue, please.
What I was saying is that when I, especially when my children were younger and I saw them, and I tried to really, make sure that they were aware of what was going on in our government I always thought in terms of, well, our president is really the person I would want them to look up to be an example, to be a role model. So I would say, ethically, he's getting an F minus. And I'll close with a quote by John Quincy Adams in response to leadership. And what he said was, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to do a fact check here on something somebody said earlier. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman, following Mamdani's July 4th national address, delivered behind George Washington's historic mahogany desk at City Hall, posted on social media, criticizing Mamdani, claiming that sitting on that specific side proved the mayor has not held a job and was using the furniture incorrectly. However, it turns out that that desk, which is frequently referred to as a Washington-style desk, is actually a traditional partner's desk. Marshall, do you know what a partner's desk is as an historian? A partner's desk is specifically engineered to be open and completely identical on both sides. This is according to reporting by, of all places, the Times of India. It features matching drawers and knee holes on the front and back so that two people, originally a government official and their working clerk, could sit facing one another and share the same workspace simultaneously. So the characterization of Mamdani not knowing which side of the desk to sit on, made by a previous caller, is incorrect. And that's my imitation of a buzzer. Dr. Mitch.
Hey, Gary. Hey, everybody. I've heard such really nice and rational conversation in here today, Gary. And, it kind of makes you wonder, where is that type of thought and consideration, at the highest levels of government? Would you trust this person to walk your dog or buy a tube of toothpaste for you? If you can't answer that.
If you want to make that comparison, Dr. Mitch, and I appreciate the comment, I will tell you, and I've observed this before, that I don't know whether if the president himself joined us today, he would remain on the stage, or whether I would be forced to remove him for violating our rules of conduct.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. The truth is, medically, this is obviously a very, troubled, disturbed human. All of this desire for attention, ego, maniacal behavior, and, like someone said earlier, with all these lawsuits, he never pays anybody, just seems to be a very uncaring person. But I wanted to bring up something else that a lot of people don't understand about the immigration policy. This week, Core Civic and Geo Group, the prisons that are mostly housing detainees, have shown an additional $1.4 billion in profit this previous quarter, and the Trump family's been buying their stock. They made 29 stock trades in Core Civic, and they were bragging how now that they've removed temporary protected status for a number of groups, they can put ankle monitors on them, which they can charge them $180 a week for, if they want to stay in this country. As of yesterday or today, they did it to all Ethiopian temporary protected status, and then Haitians, obviously, they've asked them to monitor, and Core Civic has literally released information that they're bragging about how this is going to increase their bottom line. So I don't think I think the immigration thing is about money. They've reported that it's $307,000 a bed. There are 66,000 current immigrant detainees.
Okay, so let me just interrupt you there, Dr.
The goal is 100. Hang on. The goal is 100,000.
Can I interrupt you just for a second to underscore what you just said? I want to underscore what you were saying. So according to Citizens for Responsibility, private immigration prisons have made historic amounts of money, and Donald Trump personally holds financial investments in them.
Is that a
Stop
question?
and think about that for a moment. Your responsibility is to remove yourself from ethically, I'm speaking. I'm not talking legally, because as a previous caller wanted to make sure, even though I had said it a half a dozen times, under the current law, what the president is doing is not illegal. But what you're supposed to do ethically is one of two things. Either remove your financial investments from a company that's doing business such as this with the government, or not allow them to participate as, and I don't even know if it was a no bid contract or not. That's something else I have to find out. But go ahead. But that's
Yeah,
that's
so
just
Barry, I
stunning,
mean, a lot of
that's
it
just
is
stunning information.
a lot of it is shrouded. A lot of it is shrouded in, you know, moves of certain interests to trusts and family members. Nobody's buying it. And I'm in the financial. I started as a Wall Street guy. You know, I'm in the financial business. Nobody believes it.
The Associated Press reported that these were no big contracts by and large. So there you go.
Good, yeah. So this is, the immigration thing has nothing to do with criminals and murderers and rapists. By and large, they're picking people up in the courthouses or at their immigration meetings and detaining them. And 52 family members of service members have been abducted by ICE, and they've had to, you know, go on leave, and they can't concentrate. I mean, it's...
You mean taken into custody, not abducted?
Let's say that, okay? Yeah, let's be polite, you know, or correct with our words. Yeah, taken into custody. Not exactly abducted, but you know, the immigration system moves very, very slowly. It's really inefficient, and sometimes while proceedings are taking time, you know, they're granted some type of status. I'm not suggesting, you know, it could be 20 years, but what I'm saying is there's a huge financial incentive to incarcerate immigration detainees and refuse to give them rights, you know, legal rights. Donald Trump's target is 100,000. It's currently 66,000. So to him, you know, you guys can look this up, but this is the real thing that's going on with this immigration policy. It's actually about money and profits, the private contract.
Dr. Mitch, that it was such an excellent contribution to today's discussion. You just hit with that anecdote the core of the problem, right there. You don't have to know anything else about this controversy, about whether he is ethical or not, whether he's making money for the nation or not, whether he's building up the military or not, as a previous caller tried to switch the conversation. Right there is, I mean, I don't understand why it's not like blazing headlines. You know, an earlier caller, Simon, said, why isn't this stuff getting covered? And I looked it up, and it turns out it is all being covered. What you just articulated, the reason you know it is not because you personally researched it. You know it because the media have covered it. And yet, and I would argue it's because of all these Truth Social and other pronouncements and diversions that the president throws in our face, it doesn't take hold. And remember, he started his political career with attacking the mainstream media. The fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. So now he controls the message because the biggest fake news site in the country is Truth Social. So it's no longer the mainstream media that's the fake news. And so stories such as this, which it used to be, there weren't all these every day, another red alert for us to discuss. To go back to the Watergate days, every day it was about Watergate. There was a new revelation that the Washington Post had, and then subsequently the New York Times caught up. They were competing with one another for new revelation day after day after day. There was a new hook on that story, but there was only one singular issue that consumed the attention of the public so we could concentrate on it. If today was the 1970s and a president did what you just described, which I just verified, I was fact checking you because I was unaware of this and I'm in the news business, this would be headlines, front page, evening news, Huntley and Brinkley. That's all you would hear about is this huge scandal involving incarcerating human beings for the financial benefit of the President of the United States. And yet, I am ashamed to say that even I, a person who is a purveyor of news coverage, I was unaware of this. And I'm indebted to Dr. Mitch for bringing it to my attention. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock New York time. So until 5 o'clock New York time tomorrow for the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum. Everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
top 1 trillion this fiscal year. That's just the interest, not the principal. And they said that's a record as well.